Good to see everybody here. The Davids are both gone this week with their families, so they had asked me to step in, and if I wondered if I would want to share today, and that's why I'm here. So I know Tim's been praying for me. Thank you, Tim. When I wasn't sure what I was going to share, and it seems to be the way the Lord kind of works with me quite a bit, and he has me do a lot of study, a lot of reading, and then he kind of pulls it. Things start percolating and popping around in my brain, and my wife gets all kinds of sermons at the breakfast table on Sunday mornings, typically before we start our day of work, and things come together. And this week I'm actually going to stay kind of close to the Torah portions. Torah portions this week are from Numbers chapter 16 through Numbers 18. And then the Haftorah is out of Isaiah 66. And so we're going to kind of be bouncing around there and some other places in the scriptures. We'll see where the Lord's going to take us. So open up with a word of prayer. Father, again, thank you for this day. Thank you for Shabbat. Thank you for a day of rest. Thank you for a day that we can gather. We can set aside the busyness of the work week and the craziness of the world and just come together, focus on one another, focus on you. Father, again, thank you for this opportunity to speak to your people. I pray that you would, Father, use me a crooked stick to speak straight truth. Lord, your word is truth. You are truth. And we thank you for sending your son, Yeshua, to demonstrate that truth before us. And Father, may we, as Will said during worship there, that we'd be open and we'd be aware. We would, seems as times are surely, they seem to be getting shorter. Father, just help us to pay attention and to walk in your ways. So Father, I pray that you would bless this time now, that your Spirit would be here among us and with us now and throughout the rest of this day. We thank you for showing up. Thank you for wanting to spend time with us. Thank you for making it a way so that we can spend time with you. And we just thank you and ask this in Messiah's name, Yeshua. Amen. I can. Is that better? All right. I'll try not to yell either. So, I don't know if anyone saw the email or whatever, but during about halfway through the week, David contacted me and said, well, do you have a title for what you're going to talk about? I'm like, no. But as I was praying about it, I was coming up with different things, and I just felt the Lord just lay in my heart the term holy deception. Holy deception. And as I started reading, I've been reading through the Torah portions. So the Torah portions we're in right now is the rebellion of Korah. The rebellion of Korah, then the selection of Aaron through the budding of his rod, and then instructions for the priests. So there's a thing there, and then Isaiah 66 kind of goes along with it, and I'm probably going to spend most of my time between Isaiah and Genesis today. But as you read through, well, let me ask you this. Many of us have come out of the church and have a past, and there's doctrines in the church that have been taught for whatever denomination. They kind of all have their own pet doctrines, if you will, at times. So, and many of you may have heard of it. What replacement theology? In a nutshell, who can tell me what replacement theology is? I know Tim can. He's over there nodding.
Israel was God's people, then they rejected him
Correct. Yep, it'd be the church. So the way I grew up as a fundamental independent Baptist, meaning that we were the only ones going to be in heaven anyway. So and no one could tell us what we could do because we're independent. We weren't part of any of the Baptist groups out there. And the way my pastor would have explained it to me at that time is he liked football, and he'd use a football analogy, and he would say, Israel's the wide receiver. And you got the running back in the backfield, and the quarterback gets the ball and he drops back. Quarterback's God. He drops back. He's going to throw it to the wide receiver, and the wide receiver gets knocked out of bounds. So he turns to his next option, which is the church running down the sideline, and he releases an outlet pass to the sideline. Wow, the church runs it all the way in for the touchdown. Woohoo! And they get everything. That's awesome. And eventually, Israel's going to come back, and they're going to get the living daylights kicked out of them after we're gone, of course, and that'll be whatever. We don't have to worry about that stuff, though, because that's the Jew stuff, and we just worry about the promises. That's the good stuff. You get the good stuff. You got Christ, you get the good stuff. And that I always had an issue with that. Like, it doesn't quite seem what Scripture seems to be saying. But okay, he's smarter than me. He went through seminary, and I guess we'll kind of go with that. And then I come to the point where I've truly come to the belief that true replacement theology is anything that replaces the truth of God. Any doctrine, any theology that is set up against God's truth, trying to replace it. And where does a lot of that come from? It can come from our own experiences, where we're setting our experience up as an authority over what Father's done or what Father has said, or our lack of experience. I know, in the church that I was involved in, they were a cessationist church. They believed that all the gifts stopped when the Apostle John died, because you only needed them, in essence, when Messiah was here to get the church started, and then once the church is started, you no longer need them. Well, except for tithes, you do need to do that. Keep paying, and administration. We got to have somebody can run this thing. Yeah, okay, pastors, teachers, those are important. Yeah, evangelists is pretty good, but that prophet, that apostle, those miracles, the healings, the tongues, you don't need it. That's all done away with. And again, that never sat right with me. But if this is gone, why isn't that gone? You ask me for money. Why are you asking me for money? All that's kind of wrapped up in there. But, you just you accept it. It's, I was in that denomination, that church, since I was 10 years old. I grew up in it. That's just what I was taught. So, okay, hopefully people are teaching the truth. You look up to him, you respect him, you think, well, yeah, okay, that's great. They must be telling me what's right. And unfortunately, a lot of times they're parroting in what they've been taught. And whether it's truth or not, that's what they've been taught. Again, for us, a lack of experience. We put God in a box. We would have said, yes, the God is a Trinity. There's God the Father, there's God the Son, and there's God the Holy Scriptures. Because we had no clue about the Holy Spirit. It had no clue, literally. And we would chain, just like they would do in the old time in the Catholic Church, you chain the Scriptures to the pulpit because that's who gets to work with the Scriptures. The guy behind the pulpit, and you don't want it to get stolen away. So it was. I praise God for the foundation that was laid in the fact for the love of the Scriptures. I will say that 100%. They absolutely loved reading the Scriptures and biblical knowledge and biblical understanding. I think there were some replacement theologies going on that was doing away with a lot of truth and replacing it with, again, kind of what they wanted. Kind of similar to, I think, a little bit what Yeshua was talking about with the Pharisees. You guys take your traditions and you nullify the law of God by your traditions. We still have traditions today. So part of what I want to talk about is holy deception, because I can tell you the people who were there thought they were doing right. They were passionate. They were passionate about Jesus. They were passionate about sharing faith. They were passionate about seeing people get saved. And they were passionate about the fact that they were going to get lifted off, taken up, and all that other. But they were passionate about it. Passionate. So that's kind of what, as I was looking through the Torah portions, and the fact that you got Korah. Who's Korah? Anyone tell me anything about Korah? He was a Levite, 100%. He was a Levite. They were already set apart. They were set apart by Father through Moses for service of the tabernacle. But unfortunately, it didn't seem to be enough. They wanted more. And not only did they want more, they gathered people around them to say, hey, this Moses and Aaron, what are you guys? I mean, you think you got it all? I mean, aren't we set apart too? Aren't we holy? Why can't we be doing this? Just you guys get this? Isn't that awesome? Ooh. And they rebelled. And I guess the one thing that I've found in my own experience, in my own life, is one of the ways that those deceptions can come in is through affirmation of other people. Incorrect affirmation of other people. Can tend to gather around people around you who would think the way you think, who would support what you're supporting, and then they sit there and they vomit this affirmation back. Oh, you're great. Oh, that was awesome. Wow, you're just such a man of God. This is so awesome and holy. This is wonderful. And it starts building up this sense of pride as if I'm all that. And the enemy then has a nice puppet that he can start feeding incorrect affirmations to and building things that are not of God, building kingdoms that are not of Father's kingdom, but of this world, and start building those things around you. And all of a sudden, it can become a deception. You can really believe the lies that are being built in there. The Pharisees, they thought they were all that. They're the leaders. What's this rabble out here doing? These guys don't know what they're talking about. They haven't spent the time that we have spent studying the scriptures and knowing the scriptures. And and then Yeshua comes along and says, you brood of vipers, you have no clue. You're of your father, the devil. He was a liar and a murderer from the beginning, just like you. And they're like, they obviously got mad. Someone popped their balloon. And, and when you look at what they were talking about behind the scenes, they were like, what do we do with this guy? What do we do with this guy? And the consensus comes out to be, well, we got to take him and get rid of him. It's better that one man dies and the whole nation goes under. And besides, these Romans come in, we might lose our place. Oh, so now we really have a underlying reason here. You're worried about your position and losing your place. So they built this whole set of false holiness on top of what Yeshua and what God gave. To the many times to the abrogating of it, to the turning it off. And again, they were passionate about it. They believed it. This is the way it is. This is the way it's supposed to be. The hardest part of being deceived is you don't know you're deceived. You can't see it because you're deceived until the Lord opens the eyes and says, wow, I was there. I was there. I thought I was walking the way God wanted me to walk. This is it. And until he stepped in and flipped the switch and opened my eyes, I went, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And then I tried to fall back in my wonderful Baptist teachings and upbringings. I got to tell people. And when you go back to people who are fully deceiving and they don't like it, They don't like it. So then Melissa and I, as we started moving into this faith walk, we just said, well, we're just going to do what we believe that the Lord is telling us to do. And then those people, they all start coming and asking questions. Oh, why are you doing this? What about Christmas? What about Easter? What about this? What about that? You don't eat pork anymore? Oh, come on. You love bacon. I used to love bacon. Sure. You're not doing this stuff anymore? And you just by saying no, what that did is it made the people I was talking to even feel condemned, because they could see that these are two opposing truths here, and they both can't be right. And if they're right, then this guy over here is wrong. So, my mom and my dad will look at me and say, you're trying to tell me that Grandma and Grandpa that they were wrong? They were good people. They were really, really good people. They truly, sincerely believed everything that they were taught. And I would try to tell my mom and dad, I said, no, not that they were wrong, but what they were taught was wrong. But their heart, we're talking a different matter here. Their hearts were, if they would have known the truth, they would have been truth seekers, because they were. But unfortunately, when you're built into this system that wants to hide things, what do you have? What you think is truth. You have a holy deception. And that's kind of where Korah started coming down. They had a holy deception. Something came on them that said, look, you deserve more. Yeah, God did set you apart, but that was not enough. You deserve more. So then they gather people around them, and as my dad would have put it as growing up, I can remember being a little kid and thinking, well, not so much as a little kid, but as you get a little older, you start to get, maybe mom and dad just don't know so much anymore. Maybe mom and dad, and my dad would look at me and say, yeah, son, you're getting a little big for your britches. And we're going to take you down a peg. And in essence, that's what happened to Korah here. They were kind of outgrowing what the Father had given them. And the scary thing is he took them down a lot of pegs by the time it was done. But I find it interesting because they come to Moses, and they complain, and they point this out. And then Moses, first thing he does, says, well, here's what I want you to do. Take censers, get you 250 guys. You're going to take censers, you're going to make bronze censers, you're going to put fire in them, you're going to put incense in them, and we'll see what the Lord does. And the first thing I thought is, you don't want this guy's leadership, but you're taking his direction. Well, that's interesting. You don't want this guy's leadership, you're taking his direction. Do you remember what happened to Aaron's two sons? Like a couple chapters, if you read the book, just a couple chapters back. Nadab, Abihu, guess what? They took a censer, they put strange fire on there, went before the Lord, and what did the Lord do? He burned them up. For a Levite priest, that fire was supposed to come from the bronze altar. That's where they were supposed to gather the fire from. Always from the bronze altar. Then you put the holy, anointed incense on there, so you could go before the golden altar to lift up the prayers, and then once a year be able to go into the Holy of Holies before the Ark of the Covenant. And you had to fill that thing up with the smoke, which represented the ascending prayers. But it was a specific way that the Father had set for them in order to do that. I don't know what fire Nadab and Abihu used, but apparently it wasn't from the bronze altar. They kind of did their own thing. And now Moses telling these guys, yeah, go ahead, get your fire, get your incense. We'll see what the Lord's going to do. And of course, we know what happened there. Everyone gathers before the tabernacle. They lit their censers and the incense. And what happened? Fire came out and destroyed them all. The same fire, that same holy fire. They're touching holy things that they were not meant to touch in a unholy fashion. But they thought, we can do this. We're set apart. We're great. We deserve more. So, Father also set apart Korah and all the people who were with him. And he tells everyone, back up. Back up. If this man dies a normal death, okay, I'm a false prophet. But if the ground opens up and swallows him up, you're going to know. And right as soon as he says that, boom, the ground opens up. Korah and all of his family, says they go down into Sheol alive. Wow. Wow. And then the earth closes back up over them. And then I find it interesting because then the entire congregation gets mad at them. As opposed to going, oh my, we really do serve a really big God who's really serious about his stuff. They get mad. They get mad. And Moses steps back and says, they fall. And what does Moses do? And Aaron, they fall on their faces before the Lord. They start interceding for the Lord, as opposed to saying, Father, you're right. Just get rid of these people. Exactly. After so many times, where do you draw the line, right? But Moses and Aaron, what do? They drop on their faces. They're before the Lord. And Moses says, Aaron, get your censer. Put the right fire in there. Get the fire from the altar. Put your incense on and go out. And he does. He goes out, and it says that the plague stopped. There was a clear demarcation between the dead and the living. The plague stopped, but 14,700 people died that day. They had bought into a holy deception that maybe Aaron and Moses really weren't all they were supposed to be. They weren't the supposed leaders that the Lord had set up for them. I mean, this is after Egypt. This is after all of the plagues. This is after the Red Sea. This is after Mount Sinai. And yet the people were still grumbling and complaining. Which kind of tells you where their hearts were. Were their hearts truly the Lord's? So, a lie of ambition. Again, they thought they were holy. They thought they were appointed for more. And that lie of ambition cost them everything. Cost them all. So once the real leaders were established, this is Moses and Aaron, then Aaron, in chapter 17, God says, okay, we're going to make sure you guys understand who the true high priest is here, who the leader is. Grab your rods, you're going to put them in the thing, in the tabernacle. We're going to watch what happens. And whichever one's buds, that's going to be the leader. Well, Aaron's rod not only buds, it flowers and it produces almonds in one night. All right, Lord, we're clear now. You're it. Then in verse 18, then the Lord starts laying out the priestly duties. And that's the Torah portion for this week. But the Haftorah is found in Isaiah chapter 66. And if you have your scriptures, you want to turn there. I've read so many different versions because I do a lot of study from King James to literal versions to the scriptures to ESV. I mean, so sometimes I kind of get them jumbled up here. But we're going to start at verse 16. Actually, verse 14. And this is how the scriptures version it says, and you shall see, and your heart shall rejoice, and your bones flourish as tender grass, and the hand of Yahweh shall be known to his servants, and his displeasure to his enemies. For look, Yahweh comes with fire and with chariots, like a whirlwind, to render his displeasure with burning, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword Yahweh shall judge all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh shall be many. Those who set themselves apart and cleanse themselves at the gardens after the one in the midst, eating the flesh of pigs, and the abomination and the mouse are snatched away together, declares Yahweh. And I, because of their works and their imaginations, am coming to gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my esteem. And I shall set a sign among them, and some of those who will escape to the nations of Tarshish and Pul and Lud, who draw the bow and Tubal and Yoan, and the coastlands far off, who have not heard my report nor seen my esteem, they shall declare my esteem among the nations, and they shall bring all your brothers as an offering to Yahweh out of all the nations, on horses and in chariots and in litters and mules and on camels, and to my set-apart mountain Jerusalem, declares Yahweh. And the children of Israel will bring an offering in a clean vessel into the house of Yahweh. And from them too I shall take for priests and for Levites, declares Yahweh. For the new heavens and the new earth, and I will make stand before me, declares Yahweh, so that your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from the new moon to the new moon, and from the Sabbath to the Sabbath, all flesh shall come up to worship before me, declares Yahweh. And they shall go forth and look upon the corpses of the men who have transgressed me, for their worm shall not die, and their fire not be quenched, and they shall be repulsive to all flesh. So as I started reading that, the first thing I see is, the fire from Yahweh coming out. We just read what happened to the 250 that had offered up strange fire before Yahweh. He took them out. Guess what? When he comes back and he cleanses this whole thing and he does his final separation, there's going to be another great fire that's going to come. And you not only see it in Isaiah, you see it in Ezekiel, you see it in Malachi. Various prophets had that same understanding that when the new heavens and the new earth come, when he comes and sets it up, he's going to cleanse it. He's cleansing his temple. And he's going to cleanse it from all deception. Because I get to verse 17. So again, the beginning part makes me think, oh, I just read about the fire coming of the 250. Well, verse 17, and those who set themselves apart cleanse themselves at the gardens, one in the midst, eating the flesh of pigs, and the abomination, and the mouse, they're snatched away together. And all of a sudden I read that and I thought, first thing hit me was, the garden, the midst of the garden. Oh, does this tie back to Adam and Eve in the garden? In the garden. So we go back to Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, and this is, in essence, the fall of Adam and Eve. And it says, Nahasha, or Hasatan, was more crafty than all the others animals of the field which Yahweh our Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, is it true that Elohim said, do not eat of every tree in the garden? And the woman said to Hasatan, we are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim says, do not eat of it, do not touch it, lest you shall die. And Nahash said to the woman, you will certainly not die. For Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it was pleasant to the eye, and the tree was desirable to make one wise. And she took of the fruit and ate, and she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made loin coverings for themselves. So, one of the words that kind of sticks out to me in there, and even in Isaiah, was the word knowing, to know, to know. I mean, I can know about my wife, I can know a lot of things, but until Melissa became my wife, all of a sudden, I had a new experiential knowledge of my wife that no one else has. No one else should have that knowledge. I have that knowledge of my wife. So when you go back and you look at the Hebrew in here, yes, it is talking about head knowledge, but it's also talking about experiential knowledge. Experiential knowledge. And when Hasatan came and he gave a deception, did God really say? Is that what he said? And you can already see that Eve had already added something to it, because God just told him not to eat of the tree. Well, we can't touch it, or else we're going to die. You're not going to die. The day, and he told him, for Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good from evil. So what tree are we talking about? What tree are we talking about? Tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Is there not also another tree in there that they could have eaten from? Tree of life. They didn't. I've always found that puzzling. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, it's there, but as you get into the words, I got to give Tim props. He's kind of turned me on to Brad Scott, and Brad is a guy who just digs and digs, or did. He's passed away now, but he just dug into the actual meat of the words in Hebrew and shows how, one, Hebrew is a very different language. Our language is very, very ambiguous, meaning that we'll throw out concepts like good. Well, what's good to me might not be good to you. Might be different for my wife, might be different for Kimberly. I mean, good's good, right? Good. What is good? Love. Well, love. What makes me have all butterflies? Is that love? Might be, because it's part of love. I don't know. Because when you look at the definitions of these words, even in the English, it gives you more ambiguous words. And you haven't learned anything. But Hebrew, on the other hand, is based on concrete concepts. Because it's based on what you see around you. As Brad Scott would say, it's based on the birds and the trees and the flowers and the stars up above. It's based on concrete things. And so, praise God that he did that, because it's awfully hard to change definitions when it's based on a concrete object. We've all experienced it just in the past 4 years in our own lives. The whole concept and the whole, and I don't mean to get political or anything, but this is just what happened. The whole idea of what a vaccine is changed definitions. It was changed to fit the new agenda that was being pushed. A lot of those words that were used during the whole COVID pandemic scare, the words were literally changed. They came up with new definitions. Oh, this is what it means now. Because we don't like what that was. That is concrete. Now it's not. We can make it say whatever we want it to say. We're really good at doing that and deceiving ourselves. Especially when you come with an ambiguous language, even Greek. Greek is, is very technical, but it's also very ambiguous. You can kind of make those words kind of come up and say whatever you want to say. And if you're translating from the back of the book to the front of the book, if you're not using the front of the book as your basis to understand the back of the book, then most of the time you get everything 180 degrees backwards. And then you can come up with doctrines that make you feel good. Might not be true, but they make you feel good, and they support your position. So, hey, it must be right, because all of a sudden you set yourself up as the arbiter of all truth, right? It's not me. I'm not the source of truth. There's only one source of truth, right? That's Father. Father is truth. Yeshua is truth. He is the truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life. That's Yeshua. That ain't me. I can either look at that truth and acknowledge it, or I can reject it and come up with my own ways, my own ideas of truth. And again, that's part of what he was telling the Pharisees that they'd been doing. Not taken. And when Yeshua came, he says, I didn't come to destroy the law. I came to fulfill it. I came to set it back in its right context. I'm not doing away with anything here. I'm trying to clear off the stuff that you guys have piled on here so that you can see the truth, so you can see what's really here. But Hasatan does a great job at putting a lot of arguments out there. God really say that? I mean, really? Did God really say that? Come on. He just doesn't want you to be like him, knowing good from evil. Well, again, we go to that word good. In the Hebrew is tov. Tov. And again, we might say good. Give me a definition of good. Someone who, I don't want to make anyone feel. I'll give you my definition because it's good. Something that might make me feel good, that maybe tastes good. You have good food. Things that are good. But they all have a sense of bringing some type of fulfillment, pleasure, but it's all based on me. It's my subjective definition of what I think good is. Doesn't mean that's going to be Tim's. Doesn't mean it's going to be Amy's. But it's mine. And, we live in a world today that says, it's all relative anyway. Do what you want. If it makes you feel good, do it. It's all based on feelings. Don't worry about an objective truth outside of you. It's just based on what you feel. Feels good? It's all right. All of a sudden you find out the word tov has nothing to do with feelings. Absolutely nothing to do with feelings. So when we read in Genesis where God says he's creating in the 7 days, and at the end of each day he says, and it was good, and it was good, and it was good, and it was good. What that word means is it was complete, fit for the purpose that it was made for. Complete, fit for the purpose that it was made for. That's what God says is good. When he's developed or created something that says, this is going to fulfill its purpose exactly the way I created it, that's what's good. That's a bit of a different definition than what I would call good, or would have called good. So you look at this, and you can take the idea of good and evil, again, make a subjective, what's good, what's evil? Well, I guess whatever I think is good or evil. And you can see where it would come to Eve. He knows that you're going to know the day that you eat of this, you're going to know good from evil. Well, they kind of already knew what good was because God gave it to them. He gave them a command, right? He said, fulfill the earth, subdue it, take care of it, do what you're supposed to do. Here's what I have created you for. Here is your fit purpose. But yet, we can get it in our heads that God's holding something back from us. Maybe God's holding something back. He kind of was. He was holding experiential knowledge back from him of experiencing what evil was, of experiencing evil. And Hasatan knew that because he says, the day you eat of this, you're going to know. They may be thinking, yeah, okay, I'm going to learn something. Oh, you're going to learn something, all right. And it's going to cost you everything. Because you bought into the lie. You bought into the lie. And how did she buy into the lie? The woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, a tree that was desirable to make one wise. And she took of the fruit and ate of it. And she also gave of her husband, and he ate with her. Good. I can't tell you what was going through Eve's mind, but she's looking at this tree. Apparently, whatever fruit that was appealing, very appealing. It says here it was pleasant to the eyes, and it was a tree that was desirable to make one wise. And when you start looking up those words there, in essence, it's the very essence of coveting. She looked at this fruit. Wow, that's amazing. This looks awesome. And then all of a sudden you start applying things to it. Well, that's beautiful. Must be good, right? I mean, all things beautiful are good, right? Must be good. And man, it's going to make me wise. It's going to make me wise. And when you get into that word desire there, that is a coveting, overwhelming, I've got to have that. Whatever that, I got to have it. I've got to have it. And so it became more or less an idol to her. I got to have this. And how many times does Hasatan want to do that with his people? Set up false narratives that then become truth in our brains that we want to rush out and have. If someone else has got it, why can't I have it? Just like Korah. Well, they've got it. Why can't I have it? They're all that. I'm set apart. I'm holy, right? I'm good. I should be able to have that too. And then we don't know what the Lord's protecting us from. He protected them from, they were being protected from an experiential knowledge that they did not want. And you know what? Hasatan didn't lie in part of it. He says in the day that you eat it, your eyes are going to be open. And guess what? He says they took and they ate, and the eyes of both of them are opened. What's a good way to sell a lie? With a nugget of truth. The nugget of truth. You hide some truth in there, and you wrap up a bunch of stuff all around it. Oh, must be right. We know that's right. So in our thinking, we tend to say, A plus B equals C. A is the truth, B is whatever else is added on there. Well, this must be C, so it's all good. When you find out that, no, it's F. There's no C in here because it all should have stopped with A, right? And yet they had the opportunity to go eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Or, I'm sorry, the tree of life. But they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And it says that Adam was right there with her. The guy who was set up to be the guardian of the garden, to be the leader of the family, to take care of his bride, and he stood there and he watched Hasatan beguile her right in front of him. And then he joined in. Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds good. I guess I'll take that too. Wow. So you can see there's multiple deceptions going on here at tons of different levels, and yet they're in the most holy place. They're in the very garden of God, walking with him in the evening, in the cool of the day, where he's talking to them and sharing things with them, and yet deception still had entered in. Deception still had entered in and derailed them, and kind of derailed us as well. You know, I have notes, and I haven't even hardly looked at them. We're going to get back over here to some of my notes. Wow, I'm kind of close. Yeah, the word pleasant is ta'ava, which means a longing and delight, which comes from the word ava, which means to wish for, to covet, to long after something. And then the word desired is kamad, means greatly desired, beloved. And the other word that came up in there was precious. And when I read that word, all I could think, I don't know how many of you, Jeremiah's already laughing, who've seen the Lord of the Rings, all I could think of Gollum is, oh, my precious, my precious. You know, he wanted that ring. He had to have that ring. Everything was about the ring. Oh my gosh, the ring's gone. I'm going to kill whoever had it. I got to get my ring. That's the level that Eve had with that fruit. That's the level that it's communicating. She had that much of a desire. She had to have it. She had to have it. Whatever the cost, I gotta have it. He's just holding something back from me. Why is he holding back good things from me? He doesn't love me. I mean, you can see where the lie starts to just build and build and build and build and build. And you got the nugget of truth, your eyes were opened. There's your nugget. Wise, sakel, intelligent, understanding. Again, it tends to revolve around this, not this. Again, there's a difference between this level of knowledge and this level of knowledge, right? I can know something, as I said earlier. I can know my wife. I knew about my wife. Now, after 32 years of marriage, I hope I can say, I know my wife. Still, there's, just as we pulled in here today, there's things that are like, oh boy, 32 years, I still got more to learn. But I'm working on it, right? You know, I'm working on it. But I can say, as I said earlier, I know my wife probably better than anyone else on this surface that we live on, this world, except for Father. Obviously, he knows her heart even better than I do. And, you know, and you can see how I did it. I did the same thing. I mean, I can't point fingers at anyone. You know, as I was first starting to look at this walk and moving into Torah, you know, and you think, Lord, do I really have to give up Christmas? I really like that. That's kind of I like the lights. I like the presents. I like the family gatherings. I like the food. I like everything about it. And isn't it about you anyway? You know, Christ and Christmas. Isn't it about you? I know there's pagan stuff in there, but that's not what it means to me. How many have heard that argument? Yeah, but that's not what it means to me. Does that even matter what it means to you? It's what it means to him. That's the truth. Well, he knows my heart. He knows my heart. Yeah, I've read the Psalms and I've read Proverbs where it says that the heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. You don't know your heart, but he surely does. Oh. But. Sound like a billy goat. But. And that's all I want to do is but. You know, but things, knock things over. You know, God calls us sheep. We're to just follow him. We're the sheep of his pasture. He's the good shepherd. He will lead us. And he leads us into truth. We know him well, that you shall know the truth. The truth will make you free. And it's all wrapped up in a person. It's in Yeshua. It's in Yeshua. It's in his word. He is the word became flesh. He is Torah personified, living it out right in front of us. And he gave us ways to live. He gave us that truth. So I sit there and I go back to Isaiah 66 where it talks about where the people were going into the gardens, into the midst, sanctifying themselves, setting themselves apart, i.e. Korah. Aren't I set apart too? I'm a Levite. Don't I deserve it? And then they were starting to put things in their mouths. Pork and abominable things and the mouse. I've never eaten a mouse. I never planned on eating a mouse. And that was even before I became Torah observant. I didn't want to eat a mouse. But I did love pork. So I started looking up that word abominable, the abominable things. Lord, what is this? And I find out that there's actually two words that mean the abominable things, the abomination. They're shekets, which means filth, filthy, things that make you filthy. And that word, shekets, is typically used in the Old Testament, in our scriptures. It's all about food. You find it all through Leviticus when the Lord is talking about all the food laws. And when he says things that are unclean, that make you abomination before him, it's that stuff. It's that stuff, which pork is one of them, which shellfish is one of them. My wife, I love you, honey. And I know you're okay with this. When we first got married, we went on our honeymoon. And my wife does not like bugs. Does not like them. And we go on our honeymoon, and she wanted crab. King crab legs. And so we were at Hilton Head Island, and so we found a restaurant, and we got the chef. They said, well, we don't have them on the menu. We have crabs. We don't have them. But he was willing. They said, well, okay, you're here on your honeymoon. Yeah, we'll make up a bunch of crabs. She's over there eating water bugs. I'm like, you don't like bugs, but you'll eat something off the bottom of the ocean that's a big bug. I don't get that. But yet we do it. Oh, but it tastes good. It tastes good. Oh, shrimp. Shrimp are awesome. Love my shrimp. Pork, I mean, my goodness, that's the other white meat. Come on. White meat's good for you, right? I mean, that's the other white meat. That's like chicken. Yeah, eat it right down. It's all good. And these people who were in Isaiah there, they were thinking they were setting themselves apart, being holy in the midst of the garden. Where were they going? Back to the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, saying, it's okay. I can do this and I can still be holy. And God's going, I'm sorry. No, it makes you filthy. It makes you disgusting in my sight. And eventually I'm going to take it out. And all that stuff's going to come out. The other word for abomination is toyaba. Toyaba. If David were here, he'd probably correct me. I'm doing the best I got here. And again, it means disgusting, but in an idolatrous way. Comes from the word to'ab, which means to loathe, to be morally detestable. So the Lord, for that word, for something that makes us detestable, morally detestable, filthy before his eyes, are based on two things: what comes in our mouth and what we worship. Because what we put in our mouth tells us what we're worshiping. Now, have you ever thought about that? When the Lord meets with Nicodemus, right? Yeshua was meeting with Nicodemus, and he's trying to explain things to Nicodemus, and Nicodemus just isn't getting it. And the Lord looks and says, how can I tell you of spiritual things when you can't even understand the things in the natural that I'm trying to explain to you? The natural helps us understand the spiritual. And if we're putting stuff in our mouth that makes us filthy, guess what? It's because our hearts are full of filthiness, of idolatry. Again, did God really say? As opposed to saying, yep, and that being the end of it. No, let's grab something that looks good. And wow, I want that. Man, do I want that. And the more you look at it, Eve reaches out, she takes it. She didn't die, right? She didn't die right then. She probably went, oh, he's right. I grabbed it and I touched it and I didn't even die. Well, I must be able to eat it then. And how much do we do that with? I know as a Christian, it's what I did. walking in that way, I could eat whatever I want because that's what I was taught by the doctrines that were laid on top of the truth that actually negated the truth. Hey, guess what? The grace is here. Hallelujah. The law's been done away with. You don't need to worry about any of that stuff. And so there again, I'd come down to the same thing. I'd look and say, well, that means I can kill you then? Well, no, you can't do that. It's part of the law. It says I'm not supposed to kill, murder. I mean, I can go cheat on my wife now? Woohoo! Hey, yeah, that sounds great. Well, no, you can't do that. It's part of the law. Is this not here? Is it? What are we doing here? And so that was part of my own personal difficulties that I was having trying to reconcile stuff in my mind when I had doctrines that were being handed down that just did not make sense, but I never took the time to actually think them through, right? Just kind of accepted them. That's what I was taught. Well, no. There's ceremonial law and there's moral law. Really? Show that to me, even in your New Testament scriptures. Can you show me where one's been done away with and the other hasn't? Either they're both there or they're both gone. Take your pick, but that's what you got. I didn't write it, right? So what did God say to us, though? You know, Yeshua, he said, again, I didn't come to destroy the law. I came to fulfill it. And oh, by the way, everything that I say, I only say what I hear the Father saying, and I only do what I see the Father doing. He wasn't acting on his own, right? And I can't wait, honestly, until we're in the presence of the Lord, when it's new here and he's here, and we can look and see how this interacts, because I'm saying words, but my words don't become flesh. Now, they can cause things to happen. They sure can. I can look at my son and say, Jeremiah, would you go get me? He could get up, walk over, get me whatever, and bring it back. Well, my words had an effect, but they didn't become flesh. It's not like I said in this, whatever this is, walked over there and got it for me. But Yeshua is the very word become flesh of the Father. He's the very truth. And so he said a number of things. He's being questioned. Teacher, what's the greatest commandment? Anyone? And where's that found? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And we said it this morning. It's the Shema. It's right out of Deuteronomy chapter 6. It's the Shema. It's the greatest commandment. And the second is like unto it. That's where I get the King James kind of stuff comes back out every once in a while. What's that one? Love your neighbor as yourself. Where's that come from? Deuteronomy? It's actually Leviticus 19. Right in the heart of Leviticus. Right in the heart of all that ceremonial stuff about sacrificing and how to sacrifice and priests and all. God says, yeah, by the way, love your neighbor as yourself. Right in the heart of there. Right in the middle of that book. So he's pulling Deuteronomy, he's pulling Leviticus, saying, first is love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. And then you say, well, okay, why? Well, John tells us in 1 John, just as Christ, like he was talking to Nicodemus, John is telling us, you need to be loving your neighbor, because by that you know that you can then love God. Because if you can't love what you see before you, you don't have any hope of loving what you don't see before you. So those are intricately tied together, and that's a truth. I don't get the option of saying, that Danbury guy back there, I don't love him. I don't know. It says if I see my brother in need, and I have the ways of taking care of that, part of that love is reaching out to him. That's part of that love. I don't get the option to say no at that point, right? I mean, I can, and I can lie to myself, and I can deceive myself, and say, "Well, I'm good. I'm good with God. I'm good with God. We're cool. This is all good." He knows my heart, and he knows Ron's heart too. So if he really knows that, then I'm good, because that guy over there. No, it says if you hate your brother, how can the love of God be perfected in you? Okay, so what's love? Again, And the English is one of those ambiguous terms. Oh, I love you. It makes me feel, my heart flutter when I see Scott. This is wonderful. I just love being here. We attach that word to so much stuff. I love chocolate cake, chocolate cookies, chocolate. I love chocolate. I gotta have chocolate. I don't know. I lust after chocolate, unfortunately, at times. Okay. Yeah, enough said. We're working on it. I am working on it. But, we attach that in such a fickle way to so many different things. So many different things. So I remember growing up, I was involved with Campus Crusade for Christ in college. And I didn't believe there was more than one or two Christians in the entire college atmosphere. So I actually got involved with Campus Crusade on a bet because I was literally to the point where I was going to kill myself. I was so despondent with this Christian life thing because I can't do it. I can't do it. And I literally remember sitting in the student union over at Albion College saying, all right, God, you got 3 days. Something's got to change here or I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to go into the terrible stuff. I love my brother, and I had a really good example growing up of what not to be. And I said, I don't want to be like the world. I don't want to be like my brother. I don't want to cause the pain that he's called. And I love my brother. Praise God, he's changed around. He's turned around. He's not here yet. The Lord's working on him. But I knew I don't want that. And if this isn't working, what else is there? Right? What else is there? And I had a guy come to me and invite me to a Campus Crusade for Christ meeting. He invited me a year ago, and at that point I told him, dude, I don't know who you are. You're some cult. You're like a whack job. No, stay away from me. And he come back to me again that next year, and I'm sitting there, and I'd just been praying, Lord, you got to do something. And the next thing I know, he's standing in front of me. Oh, and he remembered my name. Oh, hey, Mike. Yeah. We talked last year. Still part of Campus Crusade. You want it? And I'm like, all right, fine. I'll show up. Forrest, his name is Forrest. I don't believe you. I don't believe that there's more than one or two other real Christians on this entire campus. And I show up to the meeting, and I'm like, there's about 20 people there. And they kind of seemed happy. And like, they had something I didn't have. And for me, that was the first understanding that there was more to God than just scriptures, that there was another form of knowledge. Now, again, it's not 100% correct, but it's those baby steps where the Lord is pulling us out of things, right? All of a sudden, I started learning there is really a Holy Spirit, and God really does work through His Holy Spirit to do things. And wow, this was amazing. And so anyway, I'd gone to a Campus Crusade event. Paul Cox was the name of the speaker. And, yep, what was I going to say? It just went right out of my brain. So maybe I'm not supposed to say it, Father. Oh, no, I am. So he had given a story. He said he was driving home one day. Paul Cox was an itinerant preacher. He was driving home one day, and he was listening to the radio. And he said there were people on there. There's a rabbi on there. There's a Catholic priest on there. There was a psychologist on there. And they were all talking about love. Talking about love, from all the different perspectives. Love. And then he came down to a time to call in. People could ask questions. And he said, so you got to understand, this guy he's pretty, pretty brash, pretty bold. Doesn't hold things back, and so he says, I gotta call him, right? So he calls him up and says, wow, thank you for the program. This has been such a great conversation. Really, he said, you could just feel the people, from the radio just kind of puffing up. Yeah, well, we're great. He likes us. And he says, for all this esteemed knowledge and your sharing, he says, I just have one question for you. You've been talking about love and all this. He says, but can you give me a definition of love? Like, what is love? And he said it just went dead silent. And he thought, you guys still there? Seems pretty easy. Love is, please fill in the blank for me. And all of a sudden they get kind of a little hostile towards him. And the caller, you caller, why don't you tell us what you think love is? And he's like, okay, I will. However, I just want you to know that I'm talking to a panel of people who are talking about love. You don't know the definition. You're asking the caller to define what you can't define. And he goes into 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. Does not boast. It is not envious. Is not rude. Not jealous. Believes all things. Hopes all things. Love never fails. And I know I've missed some in there. I'm kind of doing that off the top of my head here. And, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, yeah, that's it. That's right. So God wants us to love people. Part of the truth is he has given us a commandment. According to John, again, in 1 John, well, according to Christ himself in John 14, if you love me, you will obey my commandments. All right? If you love me, you obey my commandments. And again, remember, it's not him speaking. It's the Father. It's as if the Father was looking at him saying, if you guys love me, you're going to obey my commandments. And one of the commands that John then tells us is, guess what? You need to love your brother. How do we love our brother? Well, Paul gives us a pretty good idea. 1 Corinthians. That's tough. That's tough. And he says, but yeah, I've given you the Spirit, though. I've given you the Spirit so you can actually walk out my truth. And then you go to Galatians 5, and you think, I was, as a kid, taught, what are the fruit of the Spirit? Galatians 5:22, I know the fruit of the Spirit. Personally, over time, my vision or understanding of that has changed. I think there's only one fruit of the Spirit. There's not fruits of the Spirit. There's a fruit of the Spirit, and it's love. What does that fruit look like? Joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. If you were to take love, and let's say it's a faceted diamond, and you're looking at the different facets, you would see joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. All that wrapped together is love. Is love. That's what God's calling us to do for our brothers and sisters whom we can see so that we can truly say, yes, I love Father. Why? Because I'm obeying his commandments. If you love me, you'll obey my commandments. If we choose to, again, set up our own doctrines for giving us reasons why we aren't loving one another, why we aren't walking in the faith. John tells us, and again in 1 John, to love, not just with our tongue, not just with what we say, oh, hey, brother, I love you. I love you. Mike, I love you. That's good, right? No, he says, do it in actions and in deeds. Love is something that becomes visible right here. And what did Christ do? He said the ultimate love that he gave was that he died in our place on a tree so that he could show the absolute love of Father to us. And John even said the same thing. What's greater than no man loves you is greater love than this, that a man would be willing to lay down his life for another. Now, as I'm preaching, this kind of scares me. Because I know whenever I say anything like this, a lot of times Father tests it. You really mean that, Mike? Did you? I heard what you said to those people. I heard you. I hope I don't have to. I hope I can demonstrate that love in other ways, but physical, visible signs of love. I mean, same thing that James is telling us about faith, right? Faith without works is dead. You show me your faith by what you say. I'll show you my faith by what I do. Because God is a doing God. He's a concrete God. He's given us solid, concrete evidences for the words that he used to create everything. He did not give us an ambiguous language that we can't understand, that we get the opportunity to turn into whatever we want to turn it into. Come up with our own doctrines, our own thoughts, our own ideas, and thereby deceive ourselves. He's like, I don't want deception. My truth will set you free. My truth is my son. Hasatan tried the same trick with Yeshua himself, right? Yeshua's out fasting. He's got the 40-day fast going on. He gets done. He's hungry. Hey, turn these stones into bread. What does Yeshua say? He goes to the Word himself, which I always find that rather curious too. He goes to himself, the Word, It says, man shall not live by bread alone. Do you need bread? Yes. We have a physical body. We need to put proper food into this body, right? We should not live by bread alone, but on every word that comes out of the mouth of God. So the very one who is the word that became flesh is talking to Hasatan, saying, everything's through me. The Father's put it through me. Here it is. It's got to come out that way, and that's what you're going to live on. So again, I'll end it with this. Again, I've always thought, well, why didn't Adam and Eve go over to the tree of life? You know, matter of fact, when the Lord removes them from the garden, he sets the flaming sword up in front of it. Why? So they can't come back in and eat of the tree of life and therefore live forever. What a horrible situation to live in. First of all, you think, well, wow, God kicked them out. Really? He kicked them out of the garden. I mean, yeah, and he set a guard up there for a really good reason, because he didn't want to leave us where we were at, stuck in that disobedience, that deception, that sin forever. He set a guard there so we can't go back, right? So they could not go back and eat and live forever. To live in that state, separation from God forever? Wow. No, he says, but I'm going to come and I'll die. I'll take care of this. We'll make it right so that you can come back in. And you can eat of the tree of life. Who is the tree of life? Yeshua himself. So, again, I was thinking about that as why wouldn't they have gone back in? And it's interesting because when you go to Isaiah 53, verse 2. So this is the suffering servant passage, Isaiah, awesome chapter. It says, for he grew up before him as a tender plant and as a root out of the dry ground. He had no form or splendor that we should look upon him, nor appearance that we should desire him. No form or appearance that we should look upon him. No appearance that we should desire him. Despised and rejected by men, a man of pains, knowing sickness, as one from whom the face is hidden, being despised, we did not consider him. You know, I know I've seen the images of what, Christ is supposed to look like, and it's this Anglo-Saxon guy, long hair, and looks pretty good. It's like, no, it's not Yeshua. It says that people wouldn't even have looked at him. And if we'd been walking down the street and he come the other way, you might have even went, this guy's, there's something wrong with him. He looks a little strange, maybe. Maybe his eyes were a little too wide set. Who knows what he looked like? But he wasn't someone that you're going to, that's the Savior right there. Look at him. He must be awesome. Again, Father, help me. I don't want to. You look at what is coming out of most of the pulpits today, and it's this flash, this jazz, this they're selling something. And unfortunately, it's not really good at times, right? It's not Yeshua. And I looked and I said, oh, wow, there's that word again. Nor did he have appearance that we would desire him. That's the same word that they used for Eve desiring the apple. He had no form that we wouldn't be coveting and, I gotta have him, I gotta have him, I gotta have him, I gotta have him. So I can only imagine that the tree of life was probably, I don't know what it was, but it probably wasn't an appetizing thing to look at. Tree of knowledge, good and evil, it says, it was appetizing. It was tempting. It was, look at that. It's how the glitz and the glimmer and the wow, this is awesome. And the tree of life over there, I don't know where it's at. It's over there someplace. It's that ugly thing. But that's what holds life. The Father says that my ways aren't your ways. And I'm so far higher above you. My knowledge is so much greater than yours. Will you just trust me? Even though those things in this world might not be from the world's standpoint, everything you'd want, would you trust me? Because I got something better for you. I got something better for you. And what I want you to do, start by loving one another. Walk in my truth. Walk in love. And you'll prove out that you love me. Why? Because your heart's changed. Because it's going to take me in you to love other people. It does. I'm a selfish person on my own. I know what I was on my own. I praise God for a faithful wife. Because the first 10 years of our marriage, it was rough. It was rough. I will say to this, she prayed me through. When she had everyone else around her telling her, you need to leave him. He is treating you like dirt. He's not treating the kids good. You should just leave him. And she said, nope. Father's put us together. Father's called me to be faithful. She prayed me through a lot of my 20s stupidity. And I try to tell my kids now, don't get married until the guy is 30, 32, somewhere around there, because they're idiots up until that point. Okay? Just, Jeremiah, I love you. Still got some issues, but it's just the way it is. I mean, men's brains don't form right until they hit about 32, and then they start to kind of gel in there or something. I don't know, but it takes a while for a guy to figure it out. It just does. And so my wife prayed me through that time period. She's the reason I'm here today is because of her faithfulness back then. So I just thank you, my wife. I love you for that. And so we get to love one another. I mean, we get to love one another. God just calls us to love. There's a lot of other things we do as well that shows where our hearts are, right? Right? You know, again, what we put in our mouth kind of shows where our hearts are. Are we willing to obey Father? Yeah, but I like pork. I told you, pork chops are great. Yeah, but are you going to obey Father? So I sit there and I wonder, how many other things in my life still have I bought a lie over? And so that's one of my prayers for myself, is that, Father, would you open my eyes to help me see where I'm still hanging on to a lie, because that lie is affecting me. And if it affects me, it affects my wife, it affects my family, it affects the people around me, because it's not walking in truth. And so my goal is that what you hear today is that God is love. God is truth. God is life. He is those things. He's the one that we cling to. He's that tree of life, and it may not look pretty. It may not be the thing where you say, oh, that's what I want to do, because, Christmas was so fun. There was so much glitz and glamour and awesome of that Christmas. We just nope. I'm going to set that aside, because guess what? I got other things that the Lord has set up. And so again, just the encouragement that you would look at yourself and say, Lord, would you open my eyes? Help me to see where I've bought the lie. Is there a lie still in me? If there is, where's it at? Help me to get rid of that lie. Once your eyes are open, it becomes pretty clear. At that point, you either have a chance to go yes or no. The lie comes up in front of you. Oh, that's the lie, huh? You have a choice. Yeah, but I want that. I want that. It looks really good. I want that. Or, no, I want you. I want you more than I want that. John again says, the love of the world is not what God wants us to have. It's the love of the people. Nor the things of the world. Love of the world, Lord, the things of the world. All that's passing away. It's all going to be burned up in the end anyway. And we get something new out of it, right? I want to be there. I want to be there with all of you. You guys have been so gracious and kind to my family since we've gotten here. Quite frankly, you haven't made it hard to love you guys. And I really appreciate that. You guys have grown in our hearts tremendously since we've been here. And I just want to thank each and every one of you. Because like I said, you guys kind of make it easy. And I know there's tough times. There's always tough things that happen, and it's not fun. But man, that's where we pull together. That's where we come together. We lift each other up. We help each other out. We carry those burdens. We carry the burdens of our brothers. We carry them. And so that's kind of where I was at. Again, a holy deception. May we not take a lie, put it into our lives, and call it holy just because it's something I want. Because it's all about me, I. It's not about me. It's not about I. It's about us. And it's about him. It's about us and him. We've got some opportunities coming up, and again, this is just, sorry, Mike, I'm just kind of throwing this out there. We've got an opportunity to be together for like a week coming up here in just fall at Friesner's, that's Sukkot. Those are some of the best times to get to know one another. If you can make it, man, I would encourage you to do it. If it's not a Sukkot here, find a Sukkot. Be part of that. Be part of the people. Spend time with them. Talk. Learn about one another. Because it's a whole lot harder to turn your back on someone that you know as opposed to someone you really don't know. So I think that's one reason that the Lord set those foot festivals up, right? So we're always coming back. We're always coming back and joining together and reaffirming the old acquaintances. Oh, hey, Mike, it's good to see you again. I haven't seen you for a year. Oh, it's awesome. I get to see you again. Oh, yeah. Will, so cool. I get to see, this is so cool. Man, sing something for you. Play the bass. You do that great. Awesome. Can't wait for that. When you look at, and I know I'm running on here, and I will end here. But you look at what happened after Solomon died, right? Kingdom splits in two. Rehoboam in the south, Jeroboam in the north. Jeroboam takes people, and God tells Jeroboam, if you will trust me, you'll have this portion of the kingdom. I'll support you. But Jeroboam went, I can't quite do that. And so what he said, because he knew in his mind, in his heart, the lie he had bought was that if these people up here return back to Jerusalem, I'm going to lose their hearts. And they're going to want to go back. So, hey, guys, I tell you what I'll do. Got a plan. Got a great plan here. We're going to get rid of these Levite guys and all the dregs of society, you poor guys down here. You're now my priests. I'm going to elevate you. Now you've got status. You were the dregs of society. Now you have status. I'm elevating my priest. Yeah, that worship thing. We're going to change the day. We don't really need worship on that Sabbath thing. We're going to change the day. Come on, it's Saturdays, guys. Everything happens on Saturdays, right? Everything goes on Saturday. Do you want to go out and do something fun? It's always on a Saturday, right? It's the way the world thinks, So he said, hey, let's have our Saturdays back. That'll be cool. That'll be awesome. And then, the travels, it's a long way for you guys to walk. And, I know. So we're going to set up not one, but two places that you can go to worship. So if you're close to Dan, you can go up here to Dan. If you're close to Bethel, you come down here to Bethel. We'll put a golden calf in each one. That's the God who just brought you out. And you're cool. You're all good. And Father's up there saying, no, that's not what I said. No, that's not what I said. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Prophet after prophet after prophet. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And they didn't. And he says, all right, here comes Assyria. Y'all gone. But in God's amazing plan, he says, I'm going to disperse you throughout the entire world. And then eventually I'm going to pull you all back. Just like he was saying in Isaiah there. I'm going to get rid of the bad, but I'm going to pull you back, and I will have a new set of priests and Levites. And I'm going to take them from the people, and you're going to go back out and talk to the people, and you're all going to come back and worship me. This is the way it's going to work. You're going to be able to go out and come back in, go out and come back in. Wow, that's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait. That'll be, what a day. But in the meantime, I learned to love. I learned to love here now with the people that God has put me with. And that's my prayer for you guys, that we love one another. We learn, as Scripture tells us, we learn how to spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Love and good deeds, God's righteousness, not my righteousness, not what I think is good and right. This is what he tells me is good and right. Those are the good deeds. Oh, thanks for spending the time listening to me up here rambling. I appreciate it. Father, if there's anything that I've said today that's been impactful, I give praise to you because, Father, I know what you've done in my life. I know the deceptions that you have brought me out of, the way you've opened my eyes. And I'm not saying I'm there, and I'm not saying I've got it all, because I surely don't. But I pray that you continue to open my eyes, as I pray for the people, that you continue to open all of our eyes, that we would be able to look at one another with true love, true compassion, a true heart, so that we can say, yeah, I'm a child of my God, because I love my brothers and I love my God. I'm not worshiping false idols. I'm obeying what he tells me to do, and I'm loving the people that he's put me with. Father, you are so amazing. Your plans are so far above us. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. For you're a good, good God. You are truly, fully, complete, and fitted for the purpose, just as what you've created. Thank you for calling us to be a part of it. In the name of your Son, Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen.